Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to go past 5.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we go past 5. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Well, that's fine. Motion carries.
Well, wait a minute.
But go ahead.
Motion, I think it has to be a unanimous motion to go past 5 if I'm...
It
Is
does.
that correct?
So let's pass
Okay.
it to
All
next
right.
week.
So,
What I would suggest, and see if my colleagues will go along with this, I'm willing to take public comment for the rest, whatever time it takes. But for our deliberations, I'd like to be able to come back and be able to absorb what we've heard and then deliberate.
yes. Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the rules of the board, as I recall them, indicate that if the motion to go past 5 fails, we end at 5 and we reconvene at 9 o'clock the next morning. The Supervisor Meacham well knows my plan is to be before the Coastal Commission tomorrow to deliver the position of this board.
Please
And-
be quiet. Don't be rude.
And I will assume that it is not a cynical ploy on his part to preclude my participation.
It is not.
But I believe that we can take public comment today and we can deliberate this. This is a matter that the board directed staff on. So with respect, I'd ask the distinguished gentleman of the First District to reconsider his motion, please.
Well, and I'll also add to that we, beginning at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning in this chambers, we have an Air Pollution Control District
Yes, we do.
meeting. So,
We have an Air Pollution Control District meeting, then we have an APCD meeting. The following day I have LAFCO, and that following evening is the National Water Commission. I have no problem pushing this out to another date in
Yes.
November. Please.
come on,
please.
folks.
All I want to be able
Be
to do
considerate.
is, and when we talk about notifications, the reason why I want to do this is everybody has mentioned the fact about notification. If we can delay this thing for deliberations, I'm sure that the notification will get out there. So I'm not going to support the motion.
Okay, well then let's see.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this until December 4th.
I
Second that.
Okay, and then we end prior to 5 o'clock?
Well, I'm willing to take all public testimony, but deliberations continue till December the 4th.
Okay, how does that fit with our rules of procedure? Mr. McNulty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Tim McNulty. If there is not unanimous agreement to go past 5 o'clock, the rules do say that you can convene at 9 o'clock the next morning, but you don't have to. The rules also say you can designate another day and time to continue the meeting to.
That's very good, thank you for that clarification.
Under discussion, Mr. Chairman, we have a motion seconded on the floor here. I would, on a handshake with my colleagues, ask that after that motion is voted on, that we come back with the basic plan for the rest of today, that we accommodate all public comment today, that we decide on what the rules of public comment are on the continued date, because, you know, quite frankly, I get the gist of what we're hearing, and I'm happy to hear every individual express their opinion, but I think we should make it very clear, and council can back this up with us, if they would, that we don't have to let folks who have spoken before speak again on December 4th. And I'd further like assurances that should a whole new group of folks come, that the distinguished gentleman from the First District would support going for as long as we need to go in order to conduct the business of this board.
I don't have any problem going as long as we have to go at the next meeting, but I think that that would allow for others to be aware of the fact that we're talking about this now. So, and I understand completely, those that have had their opportunity to express themselves today, that's perfectly fine. I'm willing to go to 6 o'clock to hear all of the public comment. But I think going past that to deliberate, we would go on for, I've got a considerable amount of questions that I want to get.
And so the other question that I think I would like resolved before we vote this motion is to hear from council and planning staff as to the adequacy of the notice, because quite frankly, as my understanding is, we are properly noticed for this meeting, and the thought that we need to send a postcard to every property owner in a certain area is not part of our necessary noticing.
Right, and I want to speak to that as well. This has been going on now since 2009. and it's been before Water Resources Advisory Committee, which is an open forum, our Ag Liaison Advisory Body, which is also open to the public. It had a number of hearings before the Planning Commission, and I have 2 advisory committees, one in Santa Margarita and one in Preston, and I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but at least my advisory committees are elected representatives of regional areas around those communities. One of the responsibilities of those elected members is to notify people in their region about what we will be deliberating at the advisory committees. And my advisory committees have had at least one, if not more, presentations on this issue. It has been vetted by our advisory committees, and Supervisor Meacham has 4 or 5 advisory committees, and I would expect that staff would have also presented to those advisory committees. So to say that this process was flawed, that people didn't know about it, if that's the case, it's because they're not participating at the ground floor and they're not paying attention. So that's the reality of it. And so come on. We don't interrupt you when you're speaking. Now,
We're not stealing your property.
is that how you manage public meetings? Is that how you behave? Yep. Obviously it is.
So,
Unfortunate, very unfortunate. Okay, so I want to address staff. Again, there were 2 questions raised. One is regarding the noticing protocol that we use for these types of hearings, and then a comment from planning staff also on public comment, should we continue this item to another date. So planning want to go first regarding noticing?
Griffin County Planning. So the government code is what governs how we do public hearings. And on October 30th, we requested to your board to allow us to use a quarter-page display ad instead of noticing individuals, because the government code 65091 allows that where a notice would be mailed or delivered to 1,000 or more people, a local agency can, in lieu of mailed notice, place a display ad of at least an 1/8 page. We always do quarter-page display ads. They read better and are easier for people to see, and we put a lot of information in them, so we think that that's a better way to go. So on the 30th of October, we asked for your board to authorize us doing that. That is in compliance with the code. We have met the legal requirement for noticing.
And is that typically what planning does for
That's what we
items like-
do when it comes to ordinances. Otherwise, we would be sending out mailed notice to every assessor parcel in the county. And that would be tens of thousands of parcels.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
Mr. Chair, I'm Tim McNulty. I agree with Ms. Griffin that you are properly noticed to act on the proposal that's before you today. Also, I agree that if people speak today, if we don't introduce anything new, no new information is presented at the next hearing, that they should not necessarily be allowed the opportunity to speak again. It'll be at the board's discretion at that point, but it's not a legal requirement.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So if I could amend my motion, Mr. Chair, I would amend the continuation to December 4th with the understanding that those speakers who have spoken today will not be afforded an opportunity to speak again on December 4th.
Okay, is there
Can I ask
a second?
And you will allow written comments?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay. And so the motion is that we go past 5 and that we...
No, that's separate motions, sir.
Well, okay, then did we get a second on the past 5?
Let's vote this motion. I need to ask another question, though. If folks decide they don't want to speak now, for the remainder of the day, they would be allowed to come back to speak at the next meeting. Is that right?
Sure.
Okay.
That's correct. And we do have the request to speak form from those who have spoken already. And we will, assuming we get approval to go past 5, continue with public testimony.
Call for the question, sir.
Okay, now which question? We've got two out there.
Continuance to December 4th with the understanding that those who have spoken today will not be afforded a chance to speak, but can write in
Written comments. and
Okay, we had a motion on the floor to go past 5.
It was voted down.
Has it been?
It was
Okay.
voted
Going to
down.
my motion first.
All right, state that again, Mr. Hill.
Continuance to December 4th with the understanding that those who have spoken today won't be afforded the chance to speak again in public comment December 4th, but can submit written materials to us either before or at the meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Meacham. Question for planning, we do have time reserved on December 4th
Yes, we do.
for continuance, okay?
And that we are going to continue public comment today.
Yes,
For those that wish to do that.
Yep.
sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I'll call the question. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Meacham?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Teixeira?
Yes.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes,
Motion to go past 5?
Second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous, so we will carry on. Okay, we have